All right, thank you. Wildlife experts predict grizzly bears may soon find their way into an area not far from a major Missoula neighborhood.
We're talking about the rattlesnake here. It's an area north of I-90 that's already seen more than its fair share of black bears. Reporter Montana McLaughlin went there today to talk with the residents and some bear experts. Montana?
That's right, Steve. Laura, like you said, the place of concern is in the rattlesnake. Experts say to exercise caution because humans can pose just as great of a risk to bears as bears to us. There are no recorded sightings of grizzly bears in the rattlesnake yet, but that's not to say they couldn't be coming soon. Take a drive up the rattlesnake and wildlife is in abundance. It's not hard to find deer and elk, but what about grizzly bears? Experts say they could be coming soon.
I think within 10 years we will see the occasional grizzly bear in the rattlesnake in the spring.
Chris has worked with bears for nearly 40 years. He travels across the country to educate others on conservation. He says grizzly populations have been on the rise.
We're seeing more and more bears, and they're just expanding their range. So we're seeing more bears as the population becomes healthier, and we see bears in places they haven't been in maybe 100 years.
At this time of year, grizzly bears are still about 6,000 feet up the mountains, but they could come as low as the rattlesnake in spring for food.
Vegetation tends to green up earlier down low, and that's where they go.
And more bears can mean more worry.
Just hearing the information that grizzlies might be joining the habitat along with black bears is a new kind of concern.
Karen McNenny has lived in the rattlesnake for a decade.
And I think we're all attuned to the fact that there's bears that are active in our neighborhood.
That's part of the reason Danny Tannenbaum moved to Missoula over a year ago.
I'm not really afraid. In fact, I find it a little bit exciting.
He's looking forward to what he calls the Montana adventure.
And if that involves grizzly bears and we got to bear-proof our house, then so be it.
Both acknowledge the symbiotic relationship of living in a bear's habitat.
We got an apple tree in our backyard, so I guess we'll make sure to harvest the apples as soon as we can.
I hope that our community will just keep educating us about how best to cohabitate.
Chris says the best way to do that is by keeping a safe distance, but with plentiful wildlife, that may become more difficult in time. So how do you bear-proof your home? Experts say to keep garbage in a closed area, like in the garage, feed pets indoors too, and don't hang bird feeders in the spring or summer. Reporting live in the studio, Montana McLaughlin for NBC Montana.
Thank you, Montana. Now, the experts say the birds are not in need of food come spring or summer, but if you do want to feed them, put your feeder on an elevated rope or pulley so it's harder for the bears to reach them.